Well, now, the vast majority of today's statement by the Chancellor will be about protecting and trying to create jobs. The British maritime industry says that £1 billion worth of investment by the government could help to create more than 74,000 jobs. And it says they would be green jobs, helping meet the Prime Minister's recent claim that he wants the UK to be a green shipping powerhouse. Live now to West India Dock in London's Docklands and to the Director of Maritime UK, Ben Murray, who's aboard the Pelican of London, which has just circumnavigated the globe, crewed by young scientists. Ben, welcome to you. Before we talk about investment, tell me about the Pelican. What's the story there?
Well, good morning, Ian. Yes, the Pelican of London here behind us in Canary Wharf. It's run by the charity called Darwin 200. It's planning next year to go around the world, 200 ports, recreating Darwin's voyage 200 years ago. And its job is to inspire a generation of marine scientists and conservationists around the world. So this year, because of COVID, it's had to go around Britain rather than around the world. And it's been doing marine tests and ocean checkups across the UK. And the generation it's inspiring here are exactly the sort of skills and expertise we need to help our sector meet its net zero obligations too.
Well, that's a very worthy ambition. Good to see. Now, you're asking today the government to invest. There isn't an industry out there, Ben, right now that isn't asking the government to invest in them and to help support job creation. What's so special about the maritime industry?
No, he's right. All parts of the economy are trying to get to net zero, but I think the maritime sector has a uniquely compelling case. Throughout COVID, the sector has kept our country supplied with food, with medicines, with energy. Some 95% of all goods that come into our country come on ship. And quite frankly, a large number of our companies have actually burnt through a lot of their reserves, a lot of cash, keeping people in work. And we're now facing this most significant of industrial transformations without the reserves that we would ordinarily have. And I think it's important, given that so much comes into the country on ship, that means taken as a whole, that maritime is a significant emitter to the UK's carbon emissions. Maritime creates more emissions than buses and rail combined. So if we are to get to net zero, which the sector is committed to, we need to see government investment. And historically, that investment hasn't been made by the government. Aviation, rail, automotive in particular have got that, and maritime hasn't. So we're saying very clearly, if we don't get that investment now, whether it's this autumn in a spending review or a budget that doesn't look like it's taking place now, whenever it happens, and it needs to happen now, the maritime sector is clear that it needs this £1 billion to get that process underway.
Should one read into this then, Ben, that the private sector is more reluctant to invest than was once the case?
I think because of COVID, our companies have burnt through a lot of cash, but that doesn't mean we're asking government to do this alone. If we look at just recently, we saw an announcement from Bays in Belfast in a hydrofoil ferries project, which is a net zero ferries project, which is half funded by companies, half funded by government. We've looked at the automotive sector where there's a match funding arrangement too. I think ordinarily we'd want to see more investment anyway, but particularly because of that contraction in what the private sector will be able to do because of its significant expenditure during COVID, I think it's just a statement of fact. If we want to get to net zero, bearing in mind that the lifespan of a lot of ships that come to the UK is 20, 25, 30 years, if we're going to be net zero compliant, we need ships in the water that meet net zero and allow us to meet net zero by the end of this decade. And the solutions aren't fully there yet. So if we don't get on and do this now, the chances are that the rest of the world will provide the solutions and the UK, to use a nautical phrase, will miss the boat. And that means that the 74,000 jobs that we want to see that this invention would create in coastal communities and major port towns and cities around the UK won't happen here, and other countries will move ahead. And we think coming out of COVID, looking at recovery, it's really important that we use the industries and the skills and the expertise we have as a maritime nation. The PM went down to Appledore and spoke about the UK being a shipbuilding superpower. The way we do this is by backing maritime and backing green technologies.
All right, Ben, we're more or less out of time there. Good to talk to you, and nice to hear Appledore mentioned then. It's a subject we've dealt with a lot on this programme. Thanks for joining me.